All right, so we're ready to debate, is this taking the RTI powers far too far? Let me start with Wajahat Habibullah. Mr. Habibullah, diplomacy is always by definition a work in progress. Now you have this extraordinary situation where the government is being asked to respond to an application filed by a gentleman who, as we saw, has filed 500 RTI applications recently. And the Commission has taken the view that he has a right to get an answer to a question which is very, very complicated. Who drafted the Sharm-el-Sheikh joint statement?
Well, I'm afraid this question is put by you because you have a very little understanding of the Act. Under Section 8.1a, Section 8 talks about exemption from disclosure. Anything that concerns relations with a foreign state, and there's another subsection which deals with this subject, does not have to be disclosed. So the point that you're making really doesn't fall under RTI. But also, may I also tell you that the RTI Section 2J makes it clear that it is only information that you hold, that you will give.
I understand. I am aware that information from a foreign state is exempted, but this is not about information from a foreign state.
Kindly listen to what I have to say. This particular case, I don't know the circumstances. This is not a decision that I had taken. But to say that that diplomacy as a whole should be debarred from disclosure, then you will say that all the Supreme Court judgments should not be allowed to be disclosed. Any decision that is taken in any department should not be allowed to be disclosed. How far do you go? The question is that the public has a right to know what exactly the government is doing.
So in principle, you believe that we can't take the view that because this is a diplomacy, and because diplomacy actually tends to shift, it has grades, it has texture, it shifts from week to week, it's not a concrete event as such. In principle, diplomacy should come within the ambit of the RTI.
Diplomacy as such, but of course you will have, if disclosing the information is going to endanger that diplomacy, which would mean that it would affect the relations of the foreign state, then certainly you can take the plea that you don't want to give this information.
K.C. Singh, is there anything unreasonable about that? Because Sharm-el-Sheikh, it's been widely debated in the public. Most of us actually know what the build-up to it was, how it was born, why it was born. Now, whether it was right or wrong, why is it so bothersome for a citizen to want to know, look, how did this come to be?
Look, this concept has really come up in the US, because US had separation of powers. And the thing would start between the President's office and the Congress, seeking information from the President. The Sunshine Acts came much later, in the 1960s. George Washington was asked by the Congress to give the letters which their ambassador in Paris wrote to them, because they were afraid that he was siding with the revolutionaries, and they wanted to make sure he wasn't. He did give the letters, but he blacked out certain portions. So the case law has been building up for 200 years in US.
But specifically, let's take the instance of the Sharm-el-Sheikh joint statement.
Let's take 2-3 things. One thing, that anything which is a communication between the head of state, that is the President, or in this case the Prime Minister, and his immediate aides, obviously cannot be shared, because otherwise it impairs the ability of those officers to give independent advice in future. Number one. Number two, this sort of drafting is not something you keep a record of. It's a collaborative effort. Drafts go back and forth. Many people contribute.
Which is why actually sources in the ministry are actually saying, look, there isn't one file that says so-and-so drafted it.
Yes, because drafts are not like that. Drafts are put up, some are destroyed, some go in the computer, they are obliterated. Of course, the trail is there. But I think to retain the independence of communication and the ability of officers and their political masters to discuss things frankly, and also the confidence of the other state.
Tuba.com